Hi, I'm Sophie, and today I'll be painting a resin sculpted by Clarity Studios. I've got quite a few of her resins I'm going to paint, but for today we'll be focusing on this Fiesta resin. As usual, I took some time to sketch out the resin in Clip Studio Paint. I start by tracing over this photo of the resin, and then I color it in. This time I'd already decided on painting a chestnut horse, but this gives me some time to think about different markings and shades. Now that I have a sketch, I can start painting the model. I prepped him and then primed him with my red Oxide Tamiya Fine Surface Primer off camera. I was out of white primer, so I airbrushed a layer of white before painting the base color with my oil paints. I decided to start with this light sand color. I believe I used Naples yellow hue mixed with some titanium white. Then I used this shade to paint over the entire body, and then I'll layer more colors on top. I use a warmer yellow shade to build up color on areas that are going to be a lot darker, like his back, shoulders and face. I make sure to blend the paint in nicely. I mix this darker warm shade with some blue to tone it down and keep shading the model darker to get that chestnut look. This is one of the first chestnuts I paint, so make sure to go slow and not to go too dark or too red right away. I'm constantly making sure to blend the colors together and going slow with one layer at a time to not overdo it. This is the stage where he's finally looking more and more like a light chestnut, and I keep building up color and blending it in, making sure to keep those highlights under his belly and neck. Then, once I'm mostly happy with the coat, I add some grey color to his eyes and muzzle and carefully blend it in. When everything is dry, I go in and start painting his face markings. Once I'm happy with the first layer, I start painting in the socks. I'm painting with a very off-white, almost sand color on his legs that I later make a bit whiter. I decided to use an off-white color for more of a realistic look. Here you can see what it looks like so far. A few days later, when the paint had dried, I started painting in his belly markings. I slowly paint him in and used my sketch as well as other photos as a reference guide. As I'd gotten to this part, I realized that I'd only sketched the main side of the model and that I hadn't done the same for the offside. I used reference photos to help me with the markings, but I mostly ended up doing this by freehand. At first I was happy with it, but I realized it didn't feel like the markings were in the same style as the other side, so I made some adjustments and I think it turned out okay in the end. I also make sure to build up more color on the belly and markings, as well as the socks. I set the model down to dry for a few days, before going in to do the final details. While waiting for everything to dry, I start working on the base. First, I sketch out my idea just like I did with the horse. I have these reference photos of statues and ruins that are covered in moss and other things. This was my initial idea, but as I start painting, you'll see how it didn't exactly go as planned. It was really late and I was really tired from spending the day doing house chores and cooking, so it's safe to say I wasn't being as careful or paying as much attention to details as I normally would. I painted the base with my golden acrylic paints, and off camera I had painted it in a few layers of white already as I was out of my white primer. I then paint over everything with a thin down tightened buff. I wanted to try getting in some more colors by painting this crumpled paper with raw sienna and dotting it onto the base. This was the first out of several failed attempts, and I paint the base with white and tightened buff to start over again. My second attempt was to use this makeup brush with the same paint and try that instead. I liked this a little bit better, but was still unsure about it. I decided to keep going as I just wanted to finish up and go to bed. My tired ass decided to try some pastels as I thought that would be easier and more natural. I didn't love it and also managed to get my fingerprint onto it, and decided I couldn't be bothered and started over again. This time, I'm just going to create a wash that I can quickly paint over the base and get some darker colors into those cracks and bring out the detail of the base. As tired as I was, I grabbed the wrong paint and ended up with a completely different color than I'd wanted. Needless to say, I was tired, but determined to finish the base before going to bed. It was like 2 AM at this point. I tried making my wash again and grabbed some Van Dyke brown hue to mix with the water. I'd never made a wash before and didn't know how much paint to put in, so I took it slowly instead of risking to put too much paint in it and have to start over. At first, I didn't have nearly enough paint, so the wash did absolutely nothing. The second time I also didn't have enough paint, but it was getting a bit better. Third time I finally got it right and painted it quickly over the whole base, making sure to get as much of it inside the cracks as possible. Now I decided to go back to the makeup brush with paint, and I go in with some white to get in the highlights. Afterwards, it was time to add the moss, and now that I'm watching this back while editing, I'm basically just cringing at myself throughout the whole process as I watch every mistake I made. The green is the wrong shade. I just don't like the look of it. So far it's not that bad, but it gets worse. I decide to look through my diorama and terrain stuff to see if I can add anything else to give it more texture. I look at it for a bit and decide to try using some static grass. Big mistake. At first, it's not that bad, but it still looks a bit random and weird. I decide to keep going and trust the process. But then I ended up with this monstrosity, and you can tell I'm just so done at this point. I try and remove as much grass as possible so I can start over again, but I had to take it to the sink to wash all the grass and glue off. This time I've decided I've had enough and just paint it quickly with that tight and buff color, go over it with a wash and add some dead grass tufts. I took my smallest grass tufts and I cut them into 4 pieces to get them even smaller, and I thought my camera was filming but realized it wasn't filming the whole time, so I'm sorry. But here's the results, and it was really chaotic and messy, but we finally got there in the end, and I could finally go to bed. Now I want to focus on the details, so I start by taking my time to slowly and carefully add hair details for the markings, just to give them a little extra life. I try and follow some references on which direction the hairs grow and take my time with it. Unfortunately, most of this footage is useless, as I had the back of my head covering the camera most of the time and didn't realize this until after I was done painting. I'll just have to adjust the camera angle for next time to avoid this. I then go over the leg markings and add hair details to those as well. After a few days has passed, I just want to get this model done so I can finish editing this video and upload it. So I carefully but quickly paint in the eyes and move on to the tail. The white base coat for the tail had rubbed off after me holding onto it so many times, but the primer is still good underneath, so I just add a quick layer of paint over the tail and will pretend that he's done, but I will go over it with more layers later, but not for this video. I also sort of quickly add some more color to the hoofs, but one day I'll go back and paint them more detailed, but oil paints take so long to dry, so I'd rather just do it after uploading this video, as you're not missing much anyways. He might not be 100% done, but I love how he turned out. I feel like I got pretty close to my sketch, apart from some issues with dust in the paint and some slight changes to the base. I love this sculpt, and I have some more sculpts by Clarity Studios that I'll be painting in future videos, so look out for that. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to see more painting videos. The next video I make will be a Halloween project that I'm working on, so I hope you'll come back for that. And if you joined this video, please let me know in the comments below and follow me on Instagram for more content. I'll see you around Halloween. Bye!